Hey, everybody, welcome back to TPO, better known as 2 Pixels Off. This is Mike Janda. I'm here with the other Pixel, Brad Hussey. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Did you get snow in Canada yet? It's September. Did you get snow?
I know, hey.
Welcome to 2 Pixels Off, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs.
That Arctic vortex is coming. You know, our weather's not too bad right now, but it changes. Like, we get nice hot summers, but then there's usually like a pretty steep descent into
Rapid decline. Rapid
yeah,
decline.
We
got
start
snow in our mountains
and sweaters. You got snow in the mountains?
We got snow on the tops of the mountains. Yeah, a couple days ago.
There you go.
And it may be the snow that stays there until May. All right. This has nothing to do with anything other than a little small talk to get started. Hope everybody's doing well. Shout out to Wix Studio. Thank you for making this podcast possible. I had a call with a new person at Wix that's on our main contacts team. And I had a call with her a couple days ago. And just another great person at Wix. It's always so delightful to meet new people because they're all cut from just such a good, healthy, integrity-based, motivated group, ambitious. And anyway, so shout out to my new contact.
Super supportive and positive. It's like it really
and they really want to have creatives succeed. This is what I love too. They make big investments into the creative community just to help people succeed in their business with the mindset that the success of creatives in general will turn into the success of Wix Studio and Wix in general as well. So leveling up the whole industry. And it's an admirable way to try and grow your business. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that. And today we are talking about sales documents and the sales process. We're going to dig into what are all the touch points that you need to have and the documentation you need to have to sell creative services. Brad, do you want to kick us off by maybe talking us through if we took the creatives, let me just go back and just say what everybody starts as. They start as somebody comes in as a lead, and then we're like, oh, great, I got to get a proposal. And you send them a proposal and you email it over, and then you sit there and cross your fingers and hope that it lands. This is kind of how every creative starts because we don't know a sales process. But as you scale up, you learn that there are more steps to the process in order to successfully close clients. So you want to walk us through some of that expanded sales process that creatives should be thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I worked at a studio, I thought it was really cool to see firsthand that very systemized kind of process for, these sales documents and the stages. Because you're right, when you're doing it by yourself or you're kind of a solo operator, at the beginning stages, you're like, someone calls you or emails you, and then you're like, here's the proposal with my budget. And then that kind of also acts as the contract if they sign it, and then you just kind of start working. And I guess that's, good enough at stage one. Yeah. But I remember at this agency, I thought it was really interesting. My boss, the director, he was the managing kind of director of the agency. What he would do is, we'd get a lead, and then he'd go golfing with the person who's usually like with a large company. You're talking like airplane companies and car companies and movies and things like that. So you're going with the executives, you're going golfing, you're kind of chatting, doing a bit of discovery. Yeah. And then the proposals, I remember the proposals, like we would sometimes do professional photo shoots for a proposal or for like the next few proposals, like who's the team? Okay, we've got a professional photographer booked. We're all going at, just before lunch hour to a studio. We're all treating everybody to lunch and we're doing photo shoots. And I remember one time we did a photo shoot that was like greaser themed. So we all had to like, I had like a muscle shirt and like the curl and like the cigarette pack in the shoulder. And I was doing kind of like a greaser. We were all greaser themed, and that was our team photos. And that was all part of the proposal. And so I was like, there's a lot of effort going into this proposal. And I remember seeing there was like, they had a copywriter writing copy for each of our bios. And it was like a lot of creative, like just the proposal itself was kind of a neat project. And then of course, the big budget for a big project. And then, so I remember that opened my eyes to proposals can be a big thing, but it was not just the proposal. It was a part of a bigger process, so you've got your lead coming in down the pipeline. They come from various sources. And, whatever your discovery process is, maybe it's golfing, like in this case, or maybe it's you're on a phone call or you go out to a coffee shop if you're in town. That helps you understand the problem so that you can go and propose a solution with your proposal. And that proposal, we'll get into, depending on the context of the project and the size of budget, that's going to be, it's going to grow or shrink depending on what the project is. After that, you're going to want to close the deal. And in order to close that deal, you need to actually, get it in ink or a digital approved signature. So that's your contract. Then you've got, delivery, the deliverables and delivering the project on your timeline, on the cadence that you promised. Afterwards, you've got you're not done once the project's done. You have to deliver the project, but then there's the post. I know I'm getting into this. We're talking about sales process here, so I don't want to get into like the after as well. But my point here is that there's a good, 5, 6, 7 steps. That lead up to now you're actually pushing pixels, drawing boxes and lines, writing words, whatever it is. And so, depending on the size of your project, those, you might have a couple extra steps or a couple less steps. So that to me is kind of a bit of a skeleton structure of what that might look like.
Okay. I love the example you gave with the guy taking people golfing. So much business is done on the golf course. I haven't swung a golf club since I left my agency, just so everybody knows, full disclaimer. But when I owned my agency, I found myself golfing like once a month during golf season when the weather was better. You're always getting invited. A lot of people want to go golfing. They do business on the freaking golf course. That's what happens. You mentioned, okay, so you said 5, 6, 7 steps in these bigger engagements in order to close the deal. And I had this epiphany years into my agency. Like, I wish I would have understood this stuff at the beginning. But the rule of 7 in marketing. The rule of 7 in marketing is that somebody needs 7 touch points with you or with your brand before they're ready to buy, before they've built up enough trust to make a purchase. And when you receive a lead and then your next response is to just email them a proposal. Lead comes in. Oh, great. Yeah, I want to do a logo for you. I'll do it. I'll send you a proposal tomorrow. And then you email back the proposal. You had the email response to the lead, and then you had the proposal email. That's 2 touch points. But according to Marketing 101, that's gone back 100 years in acceptance, this rule of 7 is that you need 7 touch points in order to convert someone from a potential buyer or a lead into a sale. Once I started to think of this in my sales process, I started to realize I got to slow down the sale here. I can't just jump to proposal. If I'm trying to land a bigger dollar project, I got to slow down the sales process. Now, something like a golf outing is a massive touch point. In fact, you get 3 hours of positive touch points in that golf outing. And then you probably get a couple extra emails too of coordinating, and you get their cell phone and you text them, hey, I got our tea time or whatever. And you're creating these touch points that by the time you get to proposal, you've had 7 positive interactions or more with the potential client. And the likelihood of you landing the deal is so much higher. And it doesn't have to be golf, because not everybody's a golfer. But go and take somebody to lunch. Instead of being like, okay, you got a client who comes in, lead referred to you by somebody, instead of saying, hey, yeah, okay, can we jump on a phone call and talk about your logo? You could say, hey, you're nearby me. I'd love to meet you for lunch. We can discuss your logo project over lunch. My treat. I can meet you near your office. You want to start closing $5,000 logo jobs. That's how you're going to close $5,000 logo jobs. You're not going to it's not going to be in an email response that you throw over the wall and then hope that the client says yes to it. So you intentionally slow down this process. And I think that that's a key to landing bigger deals. It's key.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? Yeah. Before we dig into some documents.
Yeah, I think that's like to keep that in mind is all business is people. And you're just trying to create a way to understand the person, so your potential client, and to have them trust that you can help them. And, you know, the reason why these bigger projects require more touch points is because there's more of a barrier there than a low risk $500 job where you could say, yeah, I could do that. We can get it done by Monday. And then they are like, all right, sure. What do I really have to lose here? Not much. And I'm also not going to gain much. I'm going to get a little bit of a cute logo that I'll probably throw away next month. Whereas if you're trying to get into more of a brand discovery and you're trying to understand the business, or they're kind of going, you know, they're trying a new initiative and they want to be able to, you know, brand that properly or build the right marketing assets and collateral, you know, they need to know that the person is trustworthy and they can trust, you know, that responsibility in their hands. So that's why, you know, going to golf, or, you know, if golf's not your thing, you know, I wouldn't take a client to a golf course because I would be an atrocious golfer and probably embarrass them and then they wouldn't hire me. But I'm okay taking them to, you know, to lunch, you know, take them and the, you know, a couple of their directors to lunch. Like, that's fine.
You could go ride moose. What do you guys do up there? You could ride moose. You go snowshoeing. You could go snowshoeing.
You can do all these things. You can go hike in the mountains. You know, you can take your bear spray. Definitely.
It's good.
What?
Oh, you could go salmon fishing, right? Could you go salmon fishing?
You could go salmon fishing when it's in season, for sure. Definitely can go fishing. Probably lunch. We'll do lunch.
Yeah. Okay.
Poutine.
Lunch.
Poutine for lunch.
Lunch. Okay. Good. Good. Yeah. So I think you slow down this process. Okay. While you were talking, Brad, I thought of a thing. This is a little bit epiphany, and I haven't done this yet, but I was thinking it's all about the trust level. And for somebody to win or to award you a $500 logo, which may be a lot for a lot of people, you need a trust level 1. For somebody to award you a $50 logo, you need a trust level 0. You don't need any trust from the client. They don't need to trust you. They don't care. It's $50. It's throwaway money for them. They don't care if you do a bad job. They don't trust you. They don't know you. You don't even have to interact with them. You can go and buy a $50 logo and have no interaction with the designer.
Yeah.
If you want to land a $5,000 project, you need like trust level 3. If you want to land a $50,000 project, you need like trust level 6 or 7. If you want to land a $500,000 project, you need like trust level 10, 500,000 and up. Trust level 10. And trust level 10 comes from personal relationship, from brand positioning. Like they admire your business. You've built a reputation for yourself. And we've talked about this on the show already, but you've built a reputation and you have a relationship. And both of those things combined give you trust level 10 with a client, and you can land the massive deals. It took my agency like 10 years before we landed our $500,000 project. And during that 10-year cycle, we were building relationships and reputation until it was time to start closing those big, massive deals like that.
Yeah.
So I think this is the takeaway for this part that we're talking about here. Trust level 1 through 10. If you're selling low cost things, you don't need a high trust level. If you want to level up your prices, then you have to build a more trusting relationship with your potential client. And that trusting relationship comes from touch points, positive touch points. And some of the most positive touch points are human to human, in-person interactions. Yeah. I would fly and go see my clients like once a quarter. I'm flying to LA, New York, DC, San Francisco, and meeting with everybody I could. Meet at Starbucks, you meet for lunch, and you pack your day full of that. And then meetings at offices. If we had ongoing projects and stuff, we'd go and meet about projects and things.
Yep, absolutely.
But it was all about building those trust creating touch points.
Yeah. And one other thing I might add to that, and then we can get into some documents here, is trust can be built in lots of ways. And obviously the human to human contact is kind of the most potent. So human interaction, going to coffee, going to lunch, going golfing, going hiking, riding polar bears. Like, it's all really good.
Oh, do you ride polar bears up there? You do.
Yeah. The risky rodeo, those risky, those Arctic rodeo. I'm just making crap up, but you get the idea. Those mystical cowboys, polar bear boys. That has more potent, but you can build, like, I've closed deals with people I haven't met for much higher than 500 and 5,000 and even more. But it's because the trust was there, and that trust can be built in other ways too. So maybe one lunch has the potency of 10 weeks of a really good email newsletter. And so maybe you've subscribed to my email newsletter and it's really, really been like, I look forward to that email each week. By the 10th one, you almost feel like a connection with me, so that when you book a call and talk to me, you're like, I feel like I kind of know you. I get that a lot. I get that a lot when people watch my videos or my courses or even this podcast or in the community. By the time someone's talking to me in person, they're like, I feel like I'm in a YouTube video, or I feel like you're teaching a lesson in a course. It's because they have that asynchronous connection that I've set up to build. I didn't take them to lunch. I didn't meet them at a conference. I didn't go golfing with them, but I did help them over the last 10 weeks automatically. So there's other ways to build trust as well. And then that adds and stacks up to help you to close deals at higher levels. And that's the reason why, you might never meet somebody and you're still able to close a $10,000 project over Zoom.
Yeah.
It's because that trust is there. They didn't do it out of nowhere. You either have a reputation, a good one, or, they have a trust, or maybe both.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this thinking. And you brought up that you would use the example of one interaction was worth 10 emails. What was your ratio?
Yeah.
What was your?
I said like one connection, like one lunch with that person is like equal 10, newsletter quality newsletter emails.
Yeah, I did a little post about this. It was just like a one slide post years ago. And of course, people refute the ratio, but they miss the point. They can't see the forest for the trees. The point was, I had something like a breakdown of like one email, or it was like 10 emails equals one Zoom call, and 10 Zoom calls is equal to one face-to-face luncheon, and 10 face-to-face luncheons is equal to whatever. And I was trying to break down kind of the thing. And I put as the last one successful project is equal to 1,000 email newsletters. It's 1,000, or it's equal to one successful project is equal to 12 in-person lunches, because you build so much trust with a successful project like that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I like that thinking, that mindset of thinking, because not all touch points have the same value. There are certain things you can do that build more value. Oh, there was a funny where was it? I think it was like on the Seinfeld finale. They were like, they were talking about getting back in with somebody, and somebody used their prison phone call to call the person because the prison phone call had so much value because it was the one call, and you get the one call and you call somebody from prison. It has so much value. Anyway, there's something like that. Anyway, the point is that not all touch points are created equal. You do need to emphasize the stronger ones and recognize where you are in that spectrum. I recommend that you go into every deal that you have that you're pitching and you look at it and say, what is the client's trust level with me? And you can say to yourself, well, I have had one email interaction with them. Okay, well, anything more than $500, I probably don't have enough trust built up with the client that they're going to say yes to me just through an email. Yeah. But if you have like a repeating client that you did a successful project for last year, and then they email you in, you can close that deal for $6,000, $7,000 without even having a phone call because the trust level is already there. Yeah. There's another thing, Brad, too, I think that's important, is that trust is transferable. And this is why referrals are so valuable. Yeah. Because if Sally has a level 8 trust relationship with you, and Sally refers you to her friend, then she's transferring over a significant quantity of trust points for you. Let's say Joe, who receives the referral to you from Sally, Joe's built in at a level 6 because Sally trusts you and Joe trusts Sally, and that trust transfers from Sally to Joe to you. Yeah. And I think that that's a huge point too, which is why referrals are so valuable when you're looking for new work, because you're going to land a lot of them. Yeah. Referrals from past clients that had a good experience with you, gold mine, a gold mine.
Correct. So true. I liked how you said that trust is transferable, because the word of a trusted colleague or friend, it carries a lot of weight. So if I were to ask you, I'm looking for somebody to help me with this, and you were like, John, 100%, I'll connect you. I immediately am going to mostly trust John, though I've never met the guy. And that's going to take it most of the way. So all John has to do is just reaffirm a couple things, clarify some things, maybe, answer a couple questions, and then we proceed. Whereas if I were to get an email from John cold, I'd probably ignore it, even though I might need him. And so that transferable trust is there. So when you're like serving a client, a customer, know that you're also building a reputation with that person that they will likely transfer to somebody else. Yeah. And so it's good to do a great job with your clients, because not only are they going to be sources of repeat business, but they're also going to be referrals. And that's the referral network is like almost a viral thing. It's a slow virality, but if I help you and you tell me, if you refer 2 people to me and I help those two are going to refer 2 people to me, and so on and so forth over the course of 2 years, you can trace all of that back to kind of like, I helped you out and did a really good job. And then it just ballooned into something. So long as you keep getting better and doing your best with each new person. But that transferable trust is there. Yeah.
All right. I love this. So let's do this, because this conversation has gone into this trust thing. Let's kick the sales documentation conversation to the next episode and continue to beat on this horse.
Sure.
of trust.
Okay.
What are some ways? Let's talk about what are some ways that creative entrepreneurs can build more trust with clients. And we've talked about a few already: going to lunch, in-person Zoom calls, going golfing if that's your thing. If it's not, you're in Canada, you can go ride moose together or whatever you want to do. Go polar bear fishing, whatever the people do up there.
Yeah,
up there.
It's all there. We got it all.
Yeah, you do have it all. Yeah. So you can go and do that. You can go whale watching, all the stuff that
you can do all
the
this stuff. We honestly have all those things. I'm not sure about polar bear fishing, but maybe it's there.
Hey,
there are a couple of rules though with the bears. I'll give you this, and we'll launch into building trust.
Okay. Okay.
They say with all the bears, because we've got all the bears. We've got black bears, grizzly bears, and polar bears. Now, polar bears are more in the Arctic. It's unlikely you're going to come across them unless you're in the northern hemisphere, near the Arctic.
Yeah.
But there are certain places where you can come across them. So they say black bears. How does it go? If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lay down. If it's white, good night. And so disclaimer, like, do your own safety precautions and research. Don't go off of the podcast, but they say, like, if it's a black bear, you fight back, you scare it off. That tends to be their behavior. If it's a grizzly bear, you're supposed to lay down and play dead, hope for the best. And if it's a polar bear, it doesn't matter. It's your lunch. There's nothing you can do.
Your lunch. You're
done. Yeah.
Well, what about a grizzly bear? If it's grizzly, then what?
Well, because we call them grizzly bears. I think in the U.S., you guys call them brown bears.
We have brown bears too. No, we have brown bears. There's brown bears and black bears and grizzly bears. I'm 90% sure.
I think that's one of those things that is one of those Americanism, like U.S., Canada. I'm pretty sure what you call brown bears is grizzly.
The brown bear versus grizzly bear. Those that live in coastal areas of Alaska are called brown bears, while typically inland bears that have limited or no access to marine-derived food resources are often smaller and called grizzly bears. Interesting. The things I learn on this podcast astonish me. I think that you're right. They just depends on where they are.
It depends on where they are. And I think it's like brown bear is a general category of bear, of brown bear. Grizzly bear is like a subspecies. And then I know, like in Alaska, they call them Kodiak bears because it's like almost like a different subspecies.
Yes, I see it. There's a YouTube video called "The Difference Between Grizzly Brown and Kodiak Bears."
Yeah.
So
it's like this.
Subtle differences. Yeah.
Grizzly is brown. Kodiak is brown. Grizzly is not Kodiak. Kodiak is not grizzly. But brown bear, they all are. And so that's probably where that confusion can come from. So we technically just have grizzly bears, but we do have coastal grizzly bears, which maybe some might call brown bears, but they still would be considered grizzly bears. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. And I like how you were talking like a freaking Dr. Seuss book there for a second.
Didn't I?
And what did you say? You said something like, "Yet brown, they all are." What the heck?
Yeah,
Who talks like
I know,
this?
Dr. Seuss. The more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the more places you'll go.
It's good stuff.
So to answer your question, if it's a grizzly bear, you lie down, play dead.
No. Okay, I do not support any of the advice that Brad has given you here. If you lay down when a grizzly bear comes at you, it is on you. And Brad is the one who gave you that advice. For me,
honestly, I don't know what I would do because like there's conflicting advice. There are people who literally say, "Don't fall for that play dead nonsense." Like, or turn around, don't make eye contact, give it space. But you're like, but what do you do if it's attacking you? I don't know. Maybe somebody in the audience can help us out.
If you've ever been attacked by a grizzly bear, tell us your story in the comments. We would love to hear how that played out for you.
Yeah. Help us out.
If you've ever encountered a black bear or a polar bear, any bear stories, drop your bear stories into the comments.
Yeah.
Just for the fun of this. All right. Let's get back to trust. Let's get back to trust. I could talk about this other kind of stuff all the time. I could do a podcast just about fascinating education for adults who should have learned these things in third grade. That could be great. The podcast that we have.
That'd be a side podcast. Podcast, just one episode where we're like, Brad and Mike relieve all of their tension with talking about total nonsense.
Yeah. Hope you like it. We had so many people turn this off already, so let's get back on task.
Yeah.
Okay. Building trust. Okay, so we talked about some of the main ways to building trust. What are some other ones that people can do? What are the other ones, and what value do they have? And while you're pondering this, I will say Zoom call. A Zoom call is worth like 10, maybe 20 emails. So instead of receiving a lead from a client and saying, okay, I'll email you back a proposal by Friday, instead say, I would love to jump on a Zoom call with you. Do you have 10 minutes tomorrow? I'd love to just put name with face. We'll watch the time carefully. I don't want to take too much of your time. And we can chat about your project for just a couple minutes so I can scope it and bid it properly.
Yeah.
Man, you do that, your win rate goes up dramatically compared to hiding behind emails.
Yeah.
What else, Brad? What are other ways to build trust with clients?
Okay. Gifts. Just gifts it could be just like a fall after a project, like maybe you do a big project and it was a lot of work and it was a lot of effort from the client's part, and you held them to the standards that you expected, and they showed up, and you're like, hey, you did a great job. I put my clients through a lot through that process, and you really stepped up, and the end result really shows. And that's in huge part to your participation in my process. And so as a thank you, it was just a little thank you, and maybe this is all in a letter. You handwrite what I'm saying, and you mail them a gift. It could be maybe it could be a custom notepad, a branded notepad. It could be maybe you talked and you find out they're like a whiskey connoisseur and they have a favorite scotch. So you buy them a $200 bottle of scotch with a note.
Yeah.
There you go. Or maybe it's not alcohol and it's something else, depending on their stuff. Maybe they're like a tea connoisseur and you took note of their favorite tea and you sent that off, or whatever it is. It honestly could just be your
favorite
note.
Book. A book you recently read, your favorite book, something like that. Send them a movie gift card to go to a theater that's nearby them, to go out to the movie tickets and popcorn.
Exactly. Maybe you heard that they are getting engaged, and so you give them an engagement gift. Honestly, it's thoughtful things that show that you connected. So that's going to have a huge surge because they've already trusted you. You've delivered. They're happy, and then they get in the mail 5 days later, like a personal note and a nice, thoughtful gift. That's going to basically cement you as a go-to. Now, some might say, well, isn't that a little manipulative, or isn't that you just buying their trust like a narcissist would? And obviously, I think I've said this on a previous episode. All of these activities are agnostic to your social behavior or your own psychological state. Giving a gift is just giving a gift. It can be a bad thing where you're manipulating a person and buying their trust for a gift card, or it can be a good thing as an acknowledgement of, we did a great job. I'm really proud of all that hard work that you did as my client. This is just a thank you.
Yeah.
So, and your intentions, it depends on the person. Just as, getting money from somebody or giving money to somebody or whatever, it's the act is agnostic to your psychological state.
Yeah.
How you proceed is how you proceed. So that's up to you there. Obviously, I would say use it for good. So giving a gift to your client, here's one example. So when we bought this house, our realtor, I think they stopped now. They must do it for a year afterwards. It's probably part of their strategy. Every quarter, I think it was 4 times, we got a gift hand delivered. One time it was a candle. It was a really nice smelling candle. So it was like high quality. It wasn't like some cheap candle they got at the dollar store. It was like probably cost them $50. And we're like, I would never buy this candle, but this is a nice candle. And another time it was honey, like 4 like honey, like craft honey. With one was like mocha style, one was cinnamon, one was this. And so we actually started buying that honey because of how good it was. Another time it was a tumbler, like a Yeti, like those Yeti tumblers with our names.
Love those.
Which was great. And then there was something else as well. It might've been, I don't know. But we knew, we're like, I know what's happening here. It's part of their client follow-up strategy to help retain and for us to recommend them. I get it. They're buying kind of almost our loyalty in a sense, but it wasn't malicious. It was really well-intentioned, and it's business. Come on. It's business. Business is about money.
Yeah.
So it's transactions, and they're just trying to humanize it a bit. And it's also going to increase their chances if they're doing this with all their clients when they book or when they sell homes. They say, keep in touch with them for a year. You every quarter drop off a new gift. That's going to, and that shows they recommend us. Why? Because all these other realtors literally don't care. They smile and do all their thing when we're about to give them a huge commission, and then they're gone. But this guy and his team, they smiled and we made us seem like really cared for, but then they actually stayed in touch for a year.
Yeah.
After that, they carry on because business is business. You got to keep going. But that was enough to, I would genuinely recommend his agency because it was a positive experience during and afterwards, even though I know they set aside a budget of $200 for follow-up with my house, but it was fine. I thought it was a positive thing, a net positive. So that would be something I'd recommend and suggest you could explore. Yeah.
I love those things. And people feel funny. And some people are sitting there listening to this thinking, what, you mean, am I supposed to give a gift to like a potential client who never bought from me yet? Doesn't that feel schmoozy and whatever? And my response is, I always freaking like it. If somebody gives me a gift, I kind of like it. Just don't make it extreme. Don't buy them a $200 platter, silver platter that they're going to have as a family heirloom or something. Don't do that. No. But give them a little token of something, the candle that you mentioned there. Or if in your local area, it's known for honey, then get them the honey that is from your local area, something like that, and have that as your little giveaway thing, a little memento from where you are, this certain thing that you can only get where you are. I think those things have huge value. And there was a guy he owned a video agency, and he was a little bit smaller than my agency. He was so good. His name was Jacob. He was so good at nurturing client relationships like this, or potential client relationships. So we did a couple projects with him that we outsourced to his video agency because I didn't have video team in my agency. So we kicked some projects out to him. And then he was so good. I went to a college football game with him. I took my son. He took his son. There were 4 of us. We went to a college football game that he got the tickets for and stuff. He would drop off things like a Lego set, and we were all creatives, nerdy, all together kind of people. And it was like one of the big Batman Lego sets that was like the Batcave Lego set. It's like $170 or something like that. So it wasn't one of the cheapo ones. It was right at the price point that you'll talk yourself out of at the store.
Yeah.
It was that price point. And he brings it over to our agency and drops it off. And I was like, man, that's so great. I loved it. I was so grateful. I did not feel funny like he was trying to buy projects from me. I knew what it was. It was a nice, staying top of mind, memorable, trust building gift. And it worked. And I didn't feel awkward, and neither did he. That's the reality. If you're going to give somebody something, they don't feel funny. They're like, thank you. This is so nice. Thank you. We got one of our contacts at Google, who's super Star Wars fan. And when we went on visits once, we got her Darth Vader waffle iron thing so that she could make waffles that were in the head shape of Darth Vader. Little things like that. You know the person a little bit, so you get them something that is unique to their interests. That can have huge value in building a trusting relationship. Books are the easy one. I did this a lot too. I'd be sitting at lunch with a client or potential client, and in business lunches and stuff, a lot of times you talk about, what are you reading? What did you read recently? Oh, have you read this book? That kind of conversation happened. And I mentioned a book that I had read recently that had a big impact on me. He hadn't read it. So I go back to the hotel and I do the 1-day shipping from Amazon and have it dropped off at his desk the very next day. So that's the kind of thing. What did that cost me? It cost me $20 for the book and probably $5 for the next day shipping instead of waiting 2 days. $25 to have that little drip of trust building thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
That's worth it all day long.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it's listening to them. So yeah, if this is all pre-sales, if you're having a genuine human connection, like there's something about that where even if you don't get the job, it's almost like getting the trust or just the positive connection it's still worth a lot, because that could still lead to maybe you and I aren't a good fit for this project, but maybe we are in the future, or maybe someone else that I know you would be a good fit for, and I'll make that introduction. Like if you're doing that and you're out for a lunch and then, maybe you do send a proposal and it's not, accepted, or you just it doesn't work out. Even in that stage, if you give a appropriately sized gift, it's appropriate to the context, like it's a perfect example. You're out to lunch or you're out golfing or what have you. And they mention, oh, I'm a huge fan of this, but I haven't read this one yet. I really love to get, and then you're like, take a note of that. I'm going to send them that book.
Yep.
Even that, and then even if they don't go with you, it's not because, and it's just like, you know what, we weren't a good fit for this project, but I'm going to keep you in mind, not only for future projects, but for other people who will need you, because like you're a good chap is essentially, you're not, it also shows that you're not just there to get their money. You're like, cause look, this is business. We're golfing right now because I want you to give me $10,000. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it's not just you give me 10 grand. Like it's me getting all my team together or blocking off 2 weeks of my time to deliver something with all my blood, sweat, and tears. But if I make it just like a little bit different, then like, I'm not just looking for that. Like I'm looking to have a positive connection here and to have you and I, have like a positive professional relationship. And if that means like, even if I don't get this gig, but I send you that book you talked about, or maybe you were, maybe you're out to lunch and then you talked about that new restaurant that opened and your wife, you're like, my wife really wants me to take her out to that one restaurant. And I'd love to, here's a thought. This is a kind of just popped in my head. Maybe you find out, this guy's, he's like, my wife really wants to go to the restaurant, but it's hard to get on the list because maybe it's new or maybe it's hot or maybe there's a wait list. But you actually know somebody there. Go talk to your buddy and say, hey, let's hook my client up. This is his name. Let's get him hooked up. What do you say? And then they say, oh yeah, sure. I'll put him on the top of the list. Give me his name and number. And then boom, that's another creative little idea. Or just a gift card to that favorite restaurant that they love going to, or the book, or if it's some sort of accessory to, maybe they're golfing. They're like, man, I'd love those gloves. And you're just like, oh, I'll buy them those gloves and I'll send them in a nice box. It cost me $80 or whatever. So just, you can get creative here. It could be lots of different things, even just flowers for the office.
Yeah.
Depends on the client.
Yeah. Yeah. Box of chocolates. I mean, honestly, it's not, you don't have to overthink it. Doesn't have to be some dramatic, glamorous, whatever thing.
Yeah.
But it's about creating a positive touch point, and those kinds of things level you up in the trust with a relationship.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that I think we want to talk about for a second, and then we'll wrap up this episode. But you mentioned people watching your videos, and then they get on a call with you and they're like, oh, I feel like I'm in one of your YouTube videos, or feel like I know you already. I've had that happen too. And it's because you're building trust at scale by posting video content. And I believe this to the depth of my soul, that if you are an entrepreneur of any kind right now, especially small business entrepreneurs, you need to get on video. You need to find a way to get comfortable doing that, because AI is stealing away your written content, your designed content. The only truly unique thing between you, why someone should choose you over choosing an AI solution of some kind or somebody they don't even know that's cheaper, is because of you. And you got to build this trust, and you can build it at scale just by getting in front of a camera. The same goes with photos. It doesn't have to, video is the best, but photos are good too. Like, you should have a team page on your website, because people go there. Somebody who's interested in potentially working with you, they see your homepage, they click your about page, they look for a team, they scroll down, and they see your face sitting there saying, hey, I'm Carl. I'd love to work with you. I'm the founder. Here's a couple people on my team, and you have a little 3-person bios on there. That builds trust, because now all of a sudden you've humanized your business. Even the mega agencies, I did a little research because I did a presentation on this in my community a week or two ago. Even a lot of these mega agencies have team page, and it's like the CEO of IDEO, like IDEO, a cool agency in the Bay Area. They have a freaking team page that has all of their execs, and it's playful and fun and has interesting little nuggets about them. If IDEO at their scale of agency has a team page, there's a little nudge for you. So at least photos on a team page, a little video of some kind posted on your about page that's just like a welcome. Hey, I'm so glad you're checking out our agency. We love doing this. We love working with these people. We'd love to work with you. It can be a freaking 30-second video, but it could have the power to level you up from a level 3 potential trust to a level 4. Just that one little thing. So I don't discount that. It's so valuable.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, creating content, especially in the video format, it comes with. I've received it countless times, which is like, I've been watching your videos for years, or I've watched so many of your videos, or I binged all your content. You know, I just like, and you're like, my algorithm is just serving up Brad videos. And you're like, that's great. That's like, so when they talk to me, like, I've already done all the work in an asynchronous manner. And now it's just a matter of, that content took them 60% of the way. And now it's just a matter of me maybe just helping them understand next steps, and then have them kind of final roadblocks or potential objections. It's a much easier job to sell somebody who feels like they know you or trust you, versus cold. And your content can do that. That's the power of it. You can create one video. Let's say, for example, this podcast, we're creating this video, which is also audio format, and it's distributed amongst all the channels. And we can have one listener, we can have 500 listeners, we can have 5 million listeners. But we've put in the effort once, and that has a potential amplification effect of virtually unlimited. Yeah. Now, 10 days from now, or years from now, So what this might be an old to us podcast episode, but to somebody, it will be a new to me podcast episode, which is just as good as me talking to the person, what we're talking about right now, in the moment. And then when they call you or call me or recommend us or whatever, like it's just as valid and valuable. So that's why there's a power in that creating content, because it's got that asynchronous one-to-many effect as well.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this episode of 2 Pixels Off. Build more trust. You want to level up your prices? Build better trust. It goes hand in hand. The amount of trust that the client has in you is proportional to the amount of budget that they are willing to spend with you. Yep. So build more trust. Yep. We talked about a few ways to do that. All right. Next episode, we will be talking about the sales process and sales documents that you need to have and kind of where to use them and things. We'll be talking about that in the next episode. And we look forward to seeing you all there. Shout out again to Wix Studio. Thank you for making this podcast possible. We love talking about these things and sharing ideas with the creative community. So thank you for that. And all you pixels, will see you again in the next episode of TPO.